And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 429. I'm your host, Blain, and I'm joined by a special guest, a returning hero of ours, Spectres Hockey, Lyle Richardson. Welcome to the show.
You're returning champion, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, thanks for having me back, Blaine. I
Well, with this
promise
appearance,
I promise I do not have notes or a manifesto this time. I got
but
that
if you
all out of my
do,
I got that all out of my system my last appearance a month ago. So,
I was hoping for
well,
more.
we'll see.
But with this appearance now, you've officially surpassed Treg for most appearances on the show this season.
He's a busy man. He's a busy man. I was a sailor, so I know, you guys get busy. Things happen, you know.
So I've heard. It's all rumors and conjecture at this point.
Yes, exactly.
Government jobs, it's
Hey, at least you got government jobs. If you could be in the States and not have government jobs. Let the Doge handle things for you.
I don't know if I can fill an email with 5 things I've done this week.
I can, but you wouldn't like them.
Nope. There's a
Oh,
lot of
really?
2 and 4 letter words.
hmm Yep. Yep.
All right. So the deadline is this week. It's
Yes,
going to
sir.
be Friday or Monday today. Um, so we're only a few days away, and this is your busy season. This is when you really, really ramp it up.
hmm
Um, and there's a ton of stuff going on, like Mikko Rantanen talk again for some weird freaking reason. The Sabres, the Anaheim Ducks, even the Canadians are swirling about. And of
Yep.
course, everybody that's anybody is going to Toronto.
Of course. Every year they always do, as we all know. That
Mm.
that that's why they've won back to back to back to back to back to back participation trophies for being in the playoffs.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. We got to give them something because it's starting to get painful. So,
Well,
here's your
I mean,
participation, guys. Way to go. Pat them on the head, send them on their way.
use your participation trophy plus a 3-1 lead that you can choke on. And, it's the
Of course.
usual stuff.
That t-shirt will never get old.
No.
Never. It was 3-1. Anyway, I love you. I have lots of friends and family who are Leafs fans, so I commiserate while secretly laughing behind their back, but there you are.
Well, I do it to their face. It's more fun.
It's more fun that way. Yeah.
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 So why don't we just kick it off
Mhm.
with the obvious stuff that you can easily push out of the way, and we'll start with the Mikko Rantanen garbage.
Well, I mean, everybody's just kind of trying to get a fix on what they're doing. From everything I gather, is Rantanen is he needs some time. Okay, I mean, he did not expect to be traded by the Avalanche. In fact, none of us expected that to happen. That shocked everybody. He goes to Carolina. He's only with them for a couple of weeks, then boom, he's into the Four Nations tournament. He's out of that, and now he's back with Carolina. He hasn't been with them for long. Money in term is not apparently not an issue, but he wants to make sure that he's going to be a good fit with them. And that's understandable because if you're looking at committing the next 8 years, possibly the remainder of your NHL career, you want to make sure that it's going to be the right fit going forward. And apparently there is some concern that maybe he might bolt, in the off season, and therefore the Hurricanes could put him on the trade block if he hasn't re-signed before March 7th. But everything that I've been seeing and hearing, and again, this could change, but everything I've seen and heard is that they're going to hang on to him, and they're going to try and make a playoff. They're going to try and make a cup run with him, and
Yeah.
hopefully along the way that will convince him that yeah, look, we're a good fit for you. Please sign our 8 year deal. Plus, we're the only ones who can give you an 8 year contract. So yeah, and I mean. Yeah, I can understand why some people wonder why he's going to be traded because look, you gave up, some prime assets to get him, including Marty Necas, who is just ripping it up in
Oh
Colorado.
yeah.
Can I just say he's playing like a man who escaped from prison. freedom, I can play my game now, So yeah. So I can understand that concern that, look, you gave up assets last year to get Jake Gensel. You waited too long to try and re-sign him, and he already made up
Yeah.
his mind he was going to leave. This time, you're not making that mistake, but he's still kind of, I don't know. But I think your odds are better if you keep him because let's be honest, you're not going to get equal value, not now. If you try to trade, if you put him on the trade block, um, you might get assets that can help you maybe in 2 or 3 years' time. You're not going to get anything, I don't think, that's going to help you win the Stanley Cup now. Your chances of doing that are better with Rent. And again, this will give you an opportunity for him to get comfortable. And if it works out well, hey, you'll have a lovely signing ceremony and, before July 1st and everybody's happy. So,
Well, I mean, it makes sense. You spend all those assets to get him there.
mhm.
Why not just take your run with him? Like
Yeah,
it just makes no sense to not.
yeah. Yeah, I mean that this is no different than any other team who gets a rental player who are in go for it mode, right?
Yeah.
That's basically the way you look at it. I mean, you're going to have cap space next season if you don't sign him. You can hop back into the market and be a player again, right? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because look, Rantanen might not be comfortable going to Carolina. I guarantee you there will be some quality talent in the free agent market this summer who will be more than happy to sign with you for 9 mil a season, 10 mil a season, 11 mil a season, because you'll have the money to do it. Okay? So, I mean, they've had no trouble attracting players in the last few years, right? Okay, Gensel, as they said, that was their own fault because they waited too long. They can't sit there and blame themselves now for that. So I can kind of take the Hurricanes to task if they don't get him signed and he departs because you made this move based on the
Yeah.
assumption that you were going to get him signed,
Yeah.
right? And according to Frank Saravalli of Daily Faceoff, they had the opportunity to, I guess, speak with his agent or something like that before the trade happened. Okay, but if I really don't think anybody spoke necessarily to him. Right? I'm sure maybe if
No.
they spoke to his agent and his agent was like, "Oh yeah, if you give him this many years and this much money, I'm sure he'll sign." Well, if he was really comfortable with this, why would he be humming and hawing now, right? That's why I really don't think this got passed through to him because he was just as shocked as everybody when that trade happened.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So
true.
if that's the case, then you made an assumption, right, before you really had all the facts here when you gave that up. So you can kind of be taken to task then for giving up assets for a guy you assumed was going to sign and then turned around and didn't. But again, you've got a guy now who could help you win the Stanley Cup as he's settled in, right? He seems to, as I said, yeah, he hasn't scored a lot, but he's looked good. He has looked good out there, right? He hasn't looked
Yep.
like a bum. So it's just a bit of adjustment. I think he'll be fine, especially when the playoffs roll around. Shoot your shot. You got him now. Shoot your shot. Go for it.
And that I think that move is what really prompted a shift in the Atlantic Division, which forced Florida to make that massive deal to go and get Seth Jones.
Yeah. And that was another one that was a surprise because I was saying for the last 2 weeks after it came up that he was talking to teams, or
Yeah.
talking to teams, but talking to Blackhawks management about being traded was that, yeah, but that contract's a heavy lift. Well, lo and behold, there's nothing like the knowledge that the salary cap is going to rise significantly in the
Yeah.
offseason to make general managers get creative. Because that was a tidy piece of work by Bill Zito of the
Yes.
Panthers. It really was. It's like, okay, Spencer Knight, okay, off the books, 4.5 mil. Um, the Hawks agree to pick up just a little over 25%, which you can cover for the next 5 years with the cap going up as high as it is, and they've got oceans of cap space and more
Yep.
now with him off the books. So fine, you go with that. You get a good goaltender, you know, or one who has that potential to be a reliable starter for you. Because Mrazek's in his what early to mid approaching his mid 30s, he's not going to have much more mileage left. Soderblom is fine, but you know you're still going to need some more depth and experience roughly in that age group so they all grow together. So I like that, and you also get yourself a decent draft pick out of the deal to boot. And the Panthers get themselves that right side defenseman that they've been missing since Brandon Montour signed with Seattle last summer. And they get him at a reasonable rate, locked in for 5 more years. And if Aaron Ekblad, if they can't get him re-signed this summer, and it's expected he'll stay, but it depends on how much of a pay cut he's willing to take to stay in Florida. But if he doesn't stay, Jones is your insurance policy.
Yes,
Jones
exactly.
immediately goes up and becomes your first pairing right side defenseman, and now you go out into the market to find that second, that second pairing guy. But if Ekblad stays, Jones is there. Hey, now you're set for the next 4 or 5 years. You're good at that spot. So again, tidy piece of work by Bill Zito, who just keeps impressing me as a general manager with
Yeah.
with his creativity.
Well, you're looking at adding, they just added a top pairing right-handed defenseman who was very mobile, big,
Yep,
physical, could
still
play
in his
well in the
prime.
playoffs. I
Still
mean,
in his
he could put
prime.
up
Yep,
points,
yep,
eat a ton of minutes.
yep.
So that's you're looking at, yeah, the depth might be not quite there anymore because you have to spend more on him right now.
Mm,
But if he can play half a game and Ekblad can play half a game, one of those two are going to be on the ice at any given time.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
massive.
Oh yeah. And Jones is just he's so looking forward to this.
Oh yeah.
He's wanted to be on a winner. And let's be honest, I mean, they are the defending Stanley Cup champions. Yeah, they may not be as deep as they were a year ago. That could change very soon, by the way, because they put Matthew Tkachuk on LTIR. Now, they did
Yes.
that today so that they could bring up Chris Drieger. Drieger, that pronounce his
Yeah, I
last
think
name?
that's how you say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their backup, because they already traded Spencer Knight, they need a backup for Bobrovsky. So they did that just so they could free up the cap space. But the rumblings are going around that, Kachuk may be done for the rest of the regular season and come back for the playoffs. We'll know for certain by deadline day because taking him off the books frees up a lot more cap space. If Zito goes out and makes another big acquisition or two this week, then we know for certain that, yeah, okay, the LTIR playbook that worked so successfully for the Lightning and the Golden Knights and the Blackhawks back in the day with Patty Kane is well and truly in form again, and will work could work for the Panthers.
Well, 100%. And
Hmm.
I mean, you're looking at a guy that's making 9.5 million, so prorated.
Yep.
Rest of the season, you're looking at an extra 4 million to play with.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, my God, what imagine what they could bring in, and they've got
Oh yeah.
assets.
They've got assets. They still have tradable assets that they can use. So, as I said, it's going to be interesting to keep an eye on them. Because yeah, if Kachuk is done, and he is legitimately injured, we all know that. I mean, we
Oh
we
yeah,
saw him in the Four Nations. I mean, yeah, he could not go for that final game as much as he wanted to. So you say what you will about Matthew Kachuk.
he's a
Yeah, I
gamer.
know. I know it's the criticisms deserved, but this guy lives and breathes for big time hockey. And yeah, if he wasn't good enough to go in a gold medal game, in that tournament, you know that he's seriously hurt. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which brings us to staying in the Atlantic Division. The Leafs are really trying to make a push to compete against a team like Florida,
Yeah.
who, let's be honest, even now, even with Kachuk hurt, have the better overall team.
Hmm. Yep.
So everybody's being connected to Toronto in some way, shape, or form because they always are.
They
But
always are.
what is there that's actually legitimate talk out there?
Well, we do know that they want to add a third line center. That's been an issue for them all season long. They tried Max Domi there. That didn't work out. Pontus Holmberg was another one they tried. That didn't work. Kalle Jarnkrok is back, but Jarnkrok, how do you pronounce his name? Sorry. But he's back after missing the entire season to date. He's finally made his debut tonight. But he's more effective, I think, as a winger now than as a third line center. His best years were when he was with Nashville. So, they definitely need to address that third line center position. And that's where you see them linked to guys like Braden Shen of St. Louis. But
Yeah.
honestly, even if Braden Shen is available, and I don't believe he is, then they can't afford it because the cap hit is 6.5 mil per season for 3 more years. So you're going to have
Yep.
to get creative because the Leafs don't have enough cap room really to be able to take him on. And it's going to cost you what top prospects you've got. It's going to cost you your 2026 first rounder because they don't have their 2025 one. They traded that away.
Yep.
So I think, and I noticed with Brad Treliving when he spoke with the media over the weekend, and he seemed to be kind of downplaying, like trying to temper the expectations of Leafs Nation. It's like, yeah, we're gonna go out and make moves, but this whole swing for the fences thing, well, historically, look at how those worked out, and he's true to a point. A lot of them didn't.
Yep.
The ones that did, cha-ching, you know. But I think you're going to see him go after more affordable guys. You're looking at people like Scott Loughton, the Philadelphia Flyers, because he's got a year left on his contract, very affordable,
Yep.
3 mil, okay, $3 million cap hit. Luke Kunin, I believe, out of San Jose, another affordable one. He's come up, and one very familiar to Habs fans, Jake Evans. Jake Evans would
Yes.
be very much a prize for them. I know he sees mostly fourth line duty with the Habs, but it's not a stretch to see him skating on as third line center. And again, very affordable at 1.7 mil. His cap hit for this season. Very affordable rental player. So those are kind of the options there. I'm sure there'll be other ones, maybe some that we didn't even consider because there's always some trades that happen to go, oh, didn't know he was available. But that's what the Leafs' prime concern is to address that. Um, any other moves after that? Whatever they can afford. Again, it'll be even further depth additions. They again, yeah, they could swing for the fence. For all we know, we could wake up on Friday morning and see, Steve Dangle will be screaming into the void that shit is our life, But I think that Treliving's kind of tipping his hand a little bit that they're going to look more for more affordable assets.
Well, I mean, they don't have a ton of assets to play with either to bring guys in, especially when you got no cap space. Like
Yeah.
they got like 100K
Mm.
towards the deadline cap. Um, it's not a lot to play with
It's
it.
a
So
dollar in,
it's
dollar out situation. Yeah. You're gonna
100%.
have to
Yeah.
get creative here. And yeah, and when it comes to trading away like assets like Fraser Minton and Easton Cowan,
Yeah.
well, I've heard people from Leafs Nation saying, damn it, the future's now. Marner and Matthews and Nylander, they're not getting any younger. They're in their late 20s. So, it's time to sacrifice the future and go out and get this stuff. Yeah, well, if you can afford to do that, sure, fine, I guess. Sure, fine. But
Yeah.
really, what's out there worth sacrificing those assets on? Like if they were willing to give up one of those two guys plus their first rounder to Montreal for Jake Evans, would you
Ah,
do it? Of course you
yeah.
would. Of course you would. Of course you would. I'm pretty sure that's what Ken Hughes would do. If he got that offer to him, oh, yes, please.
He'd
Oh,
be
you want
driving
us
him
to
to the
take,
airport.
yeah. Oh, you want us to take this trash player off your hands as well, who's got an expiring contract, so it frees up the
Sure.
cap? Sure. We'll do that for you. Who's your buddy? Who's your pal? Ken Hughes,
Yeah.
who wins many more trades than he loses. So, yeah.
Which brings me to the Canadians. I mean, that's
Mm,
with Evans, it's
yep.
well known that Hughes sets a value for a player and
Yep.
sticks to that.
Yep.
If you don't meet it, he won't make the deal.
He's
And
already let the other general managers know that the guys that he's willing to move, and it's the four UFAs. It's Evans, it's David Savard, Yoel Armia, and Christian Dvorak, right? And yes, all four are available if you're willing to meet his price. And if you're not, he's told them, I'm quite happy to hang on to these guys. And with the Habs, playing their way back into the wild card chase, because I got to be honest with you, I really had them pegged as sellers after that horrible 9 game stretch where they only won once leading up to the Four Nations. I
exactly.
thought, okay, Yeah, it was a good run, but they're out of gas, and I don't think they've got enough to come back. And once again, they're proving me wrong. They're proving me wrong this year because, oh, you think we're done? No, that rest was all we needed. Here we go. So, yeah, I'm sure that the Habs playing better makes it even easier for Ken Hughes, gives him even more leverage to go, hey, I can sit back if you're not going to give me. I'm happy to keep these guys if you don't want to pay my price. So that one's what's going to be interesting. If the Habs win tonight, that's five in a row. They've got what? They got another game for sure before Friday. You know,
Yes.
win
Yeah,
that
they're
or win that or an overtime point, and that's still very much in the thick of this, right? So by that point, do you really even want to sell, or do you want to give all these guys a vote of confidence and say, you know what, you've earned this, rather than me trading away? Let's treat these guys as our own rentals and let's go for it.
exactly like right now, as we're recording this, the Canadians are playing to the Sabres. They're up 3-0. Um, the second period's almost done. So if they win that, that's a fifth game in a row that they have won.
Hmm.
They have one more game. They're in Edmonton for that game prior to the deadline. And honestly, I think it's time that the Canadians actually do kind of make a little bit of a push for a playoff. They're 3 points out now. They might be two, maybe four. Either way,
Yep.
that's in the mix. You
Yep.
want your players learning how to play under that pressure to try and make it.
Yep.
And holding on to those guys helps.
Exactly. It's a vote of confidence to everybody in that room.
Yeah.
It's, you're not sacrificing your depth. You're not, by trading these guys, you're not saying, well, yeah, we're playing meaningful games, guys, but we don't really think we're going to make it. So best to get assets. It's like, look, you've already got a lot of assets. Okay. Every major, you know, scouting, or the people who do analysis of every team's prospects. The Canadians are in the top five of every analysis. Everyone has them in the top five or the top three. So
Yeah.
you're fine with young assets. You've got plenty of draft picks. I mean, he's already said that. I've got lots of draft picks. You know, they're fine. If you don't trade those four and you fall short and you don't make the playoffs, well, so what? You've still got all these assets. You still got extra draft picks. It's not like, oh shit, we're going into this draft with nothing. Don't be daft, right? So why not? The whole goal at the start of the season, remember, was we want to play meaningful games in March and April.
Exactly.
Here you are. It's March. You're 3 points out of a wild card spot. You are playing meaningful games for the next 6 to 7 weeks. Why not have some faith in your roster now? If since they came back from the Four Nations and proved that they want to be in this, they really
Yeah.
have proven it that they know they really want this. So let them have it. If it doesn't work, at least it was worth the try.
Exactly. Not to mention the Canadians have one of the easier schedules going forward for the remainder of the season, according
Yeah,
to Tankathon.
yeah,
So ease of schedule does factor in. I mean, they've played the hardest part of their season already, and they're
yeah.
still in the mix. So you
Yep.
got an easier go. You keep some of your veterans. The only one I can see that would be actively shopped would be Evans, just because of the contract and his value.
Hmm.
But if you make that move, you have to get something, at least something for Laval,
Yeah.
because if
Or
you're
or
calling guys up,
Yeah, or if you're going to move him off the roster, maybe you have to go out and and see if you can't acquire a player with term on their contract who can replace Evans' spot, who
yeah,
can play his style of game so that you keep that going, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, we've
especially with
already got,
Doc out injured.
yeah, especially with Doc out. I mean, that frees up some cap space too. I mean, his season's done, so you
True.
can you can afford to throw him on LTIR. You can keep accruing up until then, and then you can go, okay, LTIR, and you can go after, if you can. I mean, it's a shame about Doc as well.
It
Let's
is.
be on poor kid. And I will say this, that I really think that you're going to see in the offseason that Montreal's going to go shopping for a second line center. You know,
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, they'll keep. I mean, Doc's got another season on his contract. I don't think they're going to get rid of him. I think they're going to, come back next season and maybe try him on the wing and see how it goes from there, and still see if there's enough left there to maybe keep him on going forward, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's no, I mean, listen, injuries, it's not his fault. It's not, management's fault for trading for him, 3 years ago. I mean, this stuff happens, this isn't that he's a bad player, or I love when people say that, oh, well, he's injury prone. Oh yeah, he just keeps walking into shit and
Yeah.
getting hurt, the dummy. Why does he do that? No. But yeah, I really think they're going to need to go out and this summer and get themselves a reliable second line center.
Well, and the pressure is going to be off of him if they do that. He can
Yep.
move down to the third line. They can put him on the
Yep.
wing because
Yep.
Demidov is supposed to be arriving at the same time. So
Yep.
the top six looks to be a little bit more settled. So you
Mm-hmm.
can move him down a line. He can put him with Heineman, I guess,
Yeah.
something along those lines, and it would take a little bit of pressure off him so that maybe next year, instead of having that long setup trying to get his feet under him, be a little bit different this time. Maybe
Yep.
he'll have a little bit of an easier time. And if he doesn't, well, the experiment was attempted.
Listen, it was worth a try.
Yeah,
Injuries can derail the most promising careers, and that's nobody's fault. So, it stuff happens, right? It was worth the move, as far as I'm concerned. And meanwhile, I mean, if there's a silver lining to this, is now we're going to get a chance to see what Owen Beck can do.
exactly. And so far, it looks like it's working fairly well. He doesn't look out of
Hmm.
place when
No.
any line that he's placed on, their advanced stats look very, very strong.
Yeah. And he
So
plays with a lot of energy. You
he
really
does.
see
Yeah,
that. I mean, when he collected his first point with that, getting that assist,
yeah.
battling behind the board, swats it out to Line A, passes it over, and I just forgot who scored. Oh yeah, New Hook. Sorry,
New hook.
I had a moment. Yeah, I'm old. I have my moments.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're supposed to disagree, damn it.
Well, I'm
But
old too.
no,
I get it.
exactly. Yeah. We'll be in the old fool's home singing
Yeah.
"Play Crazy Train." But no, but honestly, though, I like what I've seen from the kids so far. I said a lot of energy, a lot of determination out there, as you said. I mean, the underlying stats look good. So yeah, we'll get a chance to see how he looks going down the stretch. And boy, did they ever miss Heineman when he was sidelined, eh? I mean,
Oh my God.
the players that you think, oh, well, Heineman's going to be out for a month, but well, they can manage that. And it was just like his absence is one of the reasons why they struggled. I mean, it really did because, yeah, again, they're like a different team when he's out there. I mean, he's just one of those guys, that just, can really make a difference, sometimes a significant difference, whether you wind up on the happy side of the win ledger or not.
He found himself his role, his niche,
Yeah.
and the impact that he can have, even with his limited ice time. He's grinding down other teams. His
Yeah.
They have to be aware of him because of his speed and his shot. But
Oh my
when
God, his shot. Yeah. Yep.
he's out on the forecheck. He's physical. He can get onto the puck quickly. So it
Yep.
makes life hard on them, and that kind of eases the ice time for the first and second lines. So it
Yeah,
makes it a little bit
absolutely.
simpler on them. So
Yep.
there is a, a snowball effect when
Hmm.
he's in the lineup,
Yep.
positive
And
one.
and let's be honest, I mean, yeah, I mean, the injuries that they have had this season have sucked. But compared to the last 3 seasons that we've experienced with the Habs, this has been their healthiest year in a while. So, God willing, knock wood the rest of the way here, if they can maintain that good health over the next 6, 7 weeks, they're going to be playing meaningful games right up to the end of the regular season, and who knows?
Exactly. Um, so we'll take a break here,
Yep.
and when we come back, we'll talk about the rest of the league. Maybe we'll come back to the Canadiens as well, because I mean, come on, it's a Habs show.
Odds are good that we'll be coming back to them.
Odds are good because everything comes back to Montreal. Ah,
Yeah.
all right. So stick around. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Habs Unfiltered. So we talked. pretty much exclusively about the Atlantic Division in the first half. This half, we're going to talk a little bit about the rest of the league because we kind of have to. Stuff happens. Eh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Don't worry, we'll tie it up to the Habs somehow, just like
Oh
TSN
yeah.
does with the Leafs on every trade.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that Stanley Cup final win that really affected Montreal by
Oh God, gosh, yes. And the Leafs making that move at the trade deadline, what it did for Montreal was actually,
yeah.
yeah,
But no, I want to go into the Metro a little bit, and I want to go
yeah.
with Columbus because I
Hmm.
love their story. With
Oh
everything that
man.
happened in the offseason, nobody gave them much of a chance, and right now they're in it. They're in a
Yeah.
playoff spot. So I don't imagine they're going to be massive buyers, but I do expect them to be out looking for something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was expected that they would be a seller and that and the big name was Ivan Provorov was the one they expected to be on the move because they'd had some preliminary contract talks but nothing close. Haven't
Yeah,
spoken in weeks. So the assumption was up till several weeks ago that okay, yeah, they're going to sell Provorov. They're going to trade him away, but they're doing so well right now that the expectation is now they're going to go from seller to sort of a modest buyer. They're not going to make the swing for the fences deal, but Don Waddell is looking out there. They want to add to he wants to add to his forward depth, and that's understandable, especially with Cole Sillinger sideline. They're going to want to find a suitable replacement there, but my God, what this team has weathered, and I mean even injuries too. I mean they're still
oh
doing
my
it without
God.
Sean Monahan. I mean hey our
Yeah,
boy, they're still doing it without him. They got Boone Jenner back just a couple of weeks ago. He'd been sidelined since preseason. Was it Marinkov? I think it was another one who'd been injured, and he only just recently came back. But yet they've been able to keep going, and it's just been a remarkable story. And Zach Werenski, by the way, he has taken his game to a whole other level. I mean, what
yeah,
I've seen from him before this season was my assessment of him was excellent puck moving defenseman, gets hurt a lot, which has hampered his performance, but he's really good, you know? He's now playing at a level of the top echelon defenseman in the league. And he showed that by the way in the Four Nations for Team USA.
he
He
did.
was
He did.
outstanding for them, and he's been one of the big reasons why he's taken over a leadership role on that team. It's obvious,
Yeah,
and it's just there's such a wonderful story that I got to say, I mean, if it comes down to it, and if it wound up being if any team was to finish ahead of Montreal, for the final wild card, I would have no problem with it being Columbus.
yeah,
That team's been through so much. Hell, that market has been through so much. They're not a market people want to team players want to go to. Oh, it's nothing. They have trouble keeping players there. It's such a losing attitude all the time. And listen, Patrick Laine wasn't wrong when he said that they had a losing culture there. It's just
yeah.
the way he said it, and yeah, that did
True.
upset people. It's like, yeah, dude, you didn't need to. It sounded like you really were throwing them under the bus, right? I mean,
He kind
Line
of
tends
did.
to engage his mouth before he engages his brain. And as he said, he's like, I won't make that mistake again. It's like, good, you're learning. Don't do that
Yeah,
again. You
finally.
poked the bear in a game we should have won. So yeah.
Yeah,
But they are a really, really tough team now, and they're the feel good story thus far of this season. And yeah, it's really hard to cheer against them. So yeah, definitely going to be a buyer, not going to be a seller. I think at this stage it's safe to say.
yeah, and all the knocks on that market. I mean, you look at the Stadium Series game they had against the Red Wings here this past weekend.
Yeah.
Over 94,000 people
Hmm.
at at the game at Ohio State. Uh, you can't tell me that Columbus doesn't like us hockey. I know Columbus. is a football town with
Yeah.
Ohio State, but for God's sakes,
Oh.
94,000 people.
And listen, remember when this stadium series was announced last year, everybody laughed.
Yeah,
Oh, great. Yeah.
yeah,
A series between a rebuilding team in Detroit and a team that's in disarray like Columbus. Who's going to watch that? Well,
a lot of people.
94,000 people turned out to watch it. I watched part of it, you know.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, look, this it's just like you hear these knocks about, market like for the longest time, the knocks were against Nashville, the knocks were against the Florida Panthers in their markets. Oh, there nobody comes out. They should relocate those teams. It was a mistake moving there. Give them a reliable product for the love of God, and they will come out. Build it and
yes,
they will come, as they said in the movie. And it's true, but it's true. You
it is.
build
Yeah,
and maintain just it doesn't even have to be a Stanley Cup champion, but a team that will contend every year. The fans will come out, you know. It's when you lose your way for decades and just muddle on through that, yeah, that's what makes you hard to love. Jeez. So, yeah.
and this is a team that I think if Evans is going to go somewhere, I think this would be a team that would really be a good fit for him.
Hmm.
They need a center. He
Yep.
provides that veteran depth, and he can eat
Hmm.
up a lot of the more difficult minutes to allow some of their young centermen to, relax a little bit and focus more on what got them drafted in the top five.
Oh yeah,
Like
he'd be a really good. Yeah, you're right. He'd be a really good fit in there, and he's kind of at the right age. I mean, I know he's 28, but that's still right in their demographic, like the
yeah,
upper edge of their demographic, but still right in there. I think yeah, he would definitely be a good fit. With the Blue Jackets, if
and they
there is a
have this
fit there
cap
at the end.
space to keep him. They
Oh
have
God,
they have the
yes,
role to
yeah,
give him, so
yeah,
it would make sense.
hmm
Now
yeah.
they don't have any second round picks over the next couple of years, so there would have to be something else they'd
Something
have to
more
give up.
tangible, yeah, a
Yeah.
quality prospect would have to come Montreal's
Yeah.
way. I don't know if there's anybody on their roster right now that I can think of that would be available because right now it's hard to look at that team and see and point at any of them and go, yeah, him. No, I don't see that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're all injured. Even one of their top prospects, Caden Lindstrom, he's injured.
Yeah.
Like everybody's hurt, and
Yeah.
I don't
Remember,
know.
yeah. And Lindstrom was the kid that I remember a lot of us were hoping that Montreal would pick because we didn't think Demidov was going to be there at that point, right? If you think
Exactly.
back to last year's draft, I remember everybody was expecting Demidov to go second or third.
Oh yeah.
Nobody was expecting him to be available when Montreal came to pick, and we were all hoping
Yeah.
made that it'd be Lindstrom because we were hoping for that big center. And well, funny how things work out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, franchise winger fell in their laps.
Oh darn. Just
A
like the way Cole Caulfield fell into their laps. And
30
Lane
goal scorer
Hudson.
Cole Caulfield.
Yeah, indeed. Yes. There we go. And Lane Hudson. And oh, can I say very quickly, if there was one player who really benefited on the Canadians from that Four Nations break, it's Lane Hudson. He
Oh my
was
God, yeah.
Yeah, he was not used to. Remember, he jumped right from college ranks right into the Habs, and oh yeah, the first 3 months was great, and then he went through what they call the Death Valley portion of the schedule, and you could see it coming out of the end of it that he was running on fumes. So that 2 week break really did him a world of good. So yeah,
You can tell by the fact that he's been just racking up the points these last few games.
again, yeah,
I know. Like
yeah,
even in tonight, he's got two already,
hmm
2 points already. So that he is creating a little bit of separation between him and his competition, Celebrini for the Calder, at
That's
least
still
for the
going to be
scoring race.
that's still going to be tight though. That's still going to be
Oh
tight. I
yeah,
mean, Michkov is still back in the equation. Dustin Wolf is very much in the equation.
he is.
I will be very surprised if Lane Hudson is at least not a finalist. Very
He
surprised
really should be. He really
yeah,
should be.
yep.
Now, with the whole Mitchkov thing, it's the aura. It's
Mm,
more name recognition than it is
hmm
impact.
yep.
Celebrini, however, that's an impact player already.
He's the first overall pick last year. You know he's going to be in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
You know he's going to be in there. And so, but so who do you keep out of that top that out of that who's the odd man out? Because I mean, Dustin Wolf has just been outstanding for the Flames. So who do you keep
Well, if the
out?
Flames make the playoffs,
Oh yeah,
he's in there.
oh yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But I mean, I'm just happy for those four rookies. It's nice to see four guys like that, that are just you could pick either one of them and say, yeah, if they win, yeah, they could win the Calder. Like you wouldn't have any problem with any of them winning the Calder. Honestly, I wouldn't. We
No.
either one of now, obviously, if Hudson won, of course, I'd be overjoyed as a Habs fan. But if
Yeah.
Mishkov won it, if Celebrini won it, if Wolf won it, I could sit down and go, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah.
But how do you think the recruiting is going to be for Boston University with Celebrini and Hudson in the finalists? Like, see what we did?
Oh,
Look at this. Look what we did.
yeah.
Come on, join us.
Come to us, baby. We make winners. Come on. Yep.
So then that kind of brings me over to Washington because
Hmm.
they're a surprise as well.
Yep.
Like nobody expected them to be the top team in the NHL this year.
Or at least in the Eastern Conference. I mean, that's where they've been riding all
Exactly.
season long. I mean, if not for the Winnipeg Jets, yeah. But yeah, and you can look in part to part of it has to do, of course, with the young talent on the roster that have been proving up, like Protas, like McMichael. These guys have really come along very, very well. You look at off-season additions like Chikrin,
Yeah.
Logan Thompson's another. Just bringing those guys in, they have fit in seamlessly. And they've got their goaltending tandem locked up. They re-signed Thompson, they've re-signed Charlie Lindgren, so
Yeah.
they're set between the pipes. They're going to keep Chikrin. So yeah, this season is not necessarily all about Ovi's march to 895 goals to break Gretzky's record. I mean, yeah, that's dominating a lot of the talk, but the bottom line is this is still a team that is number one in the Eastern Conference, is jockeying with the Winnipeg Jets for top spot overall for the President's Trophy, which would just be unbelievable if they won that. But even so, being runner up is nothing to sneeze at, and you have to take them seriously going into the playoffs. So yeah, it's been
Yeah.
a hell of a turnaround for them this season.
Not to mention, and with them, their penalty kill has been an issue.
Hmm.
So you'd have to wonder, are they kicking tires on Evans and Armia?
Yeah, I think
Because
they
the
are.
Canadians have one of the top penalty killing units in the entire league, and
Hmm.
Washington, that's one of the areas that they're having problems in.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. You could look at any of the penalty killing forwards who are available in the trade market, and you got to figure the Capitals are going to be in on most of them, to try to land at least one of them for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not like again, it won't be like big home run swing or anything like that in the market. Again, it's a depth thing, but I absolutely agree with you that yeah, they could be probably in on guys like Evans and Armia.
And they have some assets that they can
Oh
trade away.
yes.
They've got picks, they've got a couple of second
Hmm.
rounders. So
Yep.
I can see that being an option for them. And
Hmm.
with the cap space, they've got about 3.6 million. So
There's
Evans
some
would
room.
fit in there
Yeah.
quite easily.
Yeah, there's some wiggle room, and and again, that's to my point that yeah, they're not going to be going out to make a major addition unless they're willing to,
No.
unless there is somebody they want to move off their payroll. There's talk that they're willing to trade Ethan Bear. That would free up a bit of cap space for them, but again, every little bit helps. But I don't know to be honest, I don't know how much of a market there is for Bear, but never assume. I mean, we've seen players move that we didn't think would. So, I mean, he'd be an affordable player to move. I mean, who knows? Maybe somebody's doing a favor for somebody here and that. Maybe it's one of those for future considerations. So,
Yeah, exactly. He's on an expiring contract for about two
yeah,
million bucks. He's a right-handed defenseman. Eh, So teams, I would assume some teams would be willing to take that on.
they might, they
Big
might.
physical defender who can play on a third pair. Why not?
Hmm. Yeah, somebody might take a chance on him. Yeah.
Especially if the Washington's willing to pay whatever value you have set for the
Hmm.
player that you're trading.
Yeah, exactly.
like say Evans, for instance.
Mhm.
I'm sure Montreal wouldn't mind taking on a right-handed defenseman.
Just for the rest of the season. Yeah. As
Yeah,
long as there's
exactly.
a much better sweetener as part of that deal. Yeah.
Well, they do have their first this year and next, so
Hmm.
just saying.
Just saying. It's a low first, though. It's a low first,
Yeah,
but it's a first.
first is a first.
First is a first. Yep.
But yeah, so in the West, over in the West Coast, things are looking a little bit more murky.
Mm,
Colorado's made all their big moves already. It doesn't look like they're going to do anything more. But
mm,
because they've made those moves, you're thinking you have to think, what the hell's Winnipeg going to do to try and offset some of that?
hmm. And that's another team they need a second line center. Their need is a little
Yes.
more, yeah, that's a play. I mean, they could go after Evans. I wouldn't rule it out, but I don't believe he addresses that need for that
No.
reliable, experienced, and that's why they were linked to Braden Shen. Again, I don't see Shen moving. Again, stranger things have happened, but Winnipeg's in a very good position though. They've got the picks and prospects that they could dangle if they wish. They've got
Yeah.
the cap room. So, they're in a solid position. But, even at the end of the day, if they only just made one or two minor moves, I don't think that's disastrous or the end of the world for them. But still, I see them really trying to find, that second line center, and it's not going to be an easy fix. There's not a lot of that type of player available in the market. There really, really isn't. I mean, you can throw Shen's name around, but that doesn't mean that he's available. You know, um,
They do
you
have the
know,
cap space to fit him in, though.
they do, but again, we don't know that he's available. The Blues are in no hurry to move this guy. So like I said, they can afford to wait. His trade value is will be high. There's no question
Oh,
about
yeah.
it. But again, he also has a full no trade clause. And if he doesn't want to go to Winnipeg, that's the end of that. So Winnipeg may be the top team in the league right now, but I mean, still, as I hate saying it, but it's the truth. As a market, don't take my word for it. Take every NHLPA poll for the last several years, right? Which team do you least want to go to? Which market do you least want to go to? Winnipeg. Uh,
Can't exactly
so
walk to the arena in flip-flops there.
no, no. But I'll tell you though, if there is a market that I would love to see win the Stanley Cup, if there was to be a Stanley Cup winner this year, I would love if it was Winnipeg because that would
Yeah.
really, 'cause just like the way Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid have helped shatter that stigma of Edmonton as a market nobody wanted to go to. Man, if Winnipeg, even Winnipeg can just make a run to the final or to the conference final for God's sake, right?
Yeah.
Because they're still going to be well positioned as a contender going into next season too. So that's going to help, right? That would help. But yeah, if they win a Stanley Cup, first of all, yeah, I think it would be great to see the smallest market in the NHL win the cup. And to bring it back to Canada, if anybody's going to do it besides Montreal, yeah, Winnipeg, I think definitely. But yeah,
That would be fun.
yeah. And God knows that's what Kevin Cheveldayoff's going to want to do is to try to find that second line center or the players that are going to help put them over because, let's be honest. I mean, their last couple of playoff appearances against Colorado and Vegas were very disappointing. So they've got something to prove this year. So far, they've been proving it throughout the regular season, but we still haven't met the real test yet. And that's where I think they're Shovel Dayoff's going to be active, but whether he gets that second line center or has to settle for one or two depth guys, we'll find out by Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be hard. Like they're walking away right now with their division. I mean, they got
Yeah,
an 8 point lead over second place.
yeah,
So positioning in for the playoffs is not the issue. It's
no,
what you bring in
yeah,
has to make the impact in the playoffs. You don't really give a crap about the regular season.
no.
And they got what, $11.5 million to play with
Oh yeah, they
for
got a
the
lot of
deadline.
cap room.
So
Yep.
so
Excuse me.
I mean, a Dylan Cousins would be an ideal addition for that kind of thing
If you're willing to pay the
if
Sabres
you're willing to
asking
pay.
price. And that's
Exactly.
that's the problem. And if you're going to give up Dylan Cousins, Which young player on the Jets roster would have to go the
Exactly.
other way?
That's the tough call right there.
Yeah, are you willing to make that call?
Do you have a guy who's in the minors who can be an NHLer right away?
Not good enough.
Is that,
Not good
but you have
enough.
to add to that as well.
Exactly. That's what I said. Yeah. It's not good enough. What as I said before, what Kevin Adams wants is returns that are
Yeah.
going to be comparable to the middle stat for Byram trade last year. That's what he wants. Prospects and
Yeah.
picks, not interested. So Cole Perfetti,
Possibly. Yeah. Honestly, I
are
would
you willing to
probably,
do that?
I, I would do that myself because I would see Cousins as a more of a playoff guy for, especially the Western Conference. A little
Mm,
bit more physical, bigger body. He's got a 30-goal season under his belt already. So,
yeah.
and he's under contract for quite a while.
Oh yes, that you've got contract security there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But Perfetti, though,
He's starting to come around.
are you really comfortable with doing that? Because then that becomes the specter of do you trade him to Buffalo and watch
Yeah.
him blossom into the superstar that leads them finally back to the playoff promised land? You know,
Eh,
there's a risk everywhere, but that's what I think that's what it'd take. If you want to bring Dylan Cousins to Winnipeg, you got to
yeah.
give up Cole Perfetti to get him.
Uh,
That's even up. That's even up. That's exactly the kind of trade that would pry him, that would convince Kevin Adams to part with him. But even then, I mean, it's got to be center for center because if you trade Cousins, now you've just left the Sabres even thinner down the middle behind Tage Thompson.
yes.
So is that necessarily the right fit? It may not be. So,
It is center for center. It is two guys who are under contract, but with Cousins,
yep,
it's a lot longer.
yep.
Buffalo saves a little bit of money. They get someone a little
Hmm.
younger. So it
It
kind of
could,
fits.
it
It would
could.
fit.
It could. I mean, Perfetti doesn't play the same style of game as Cousins,
No.
but that could be a move maybe that Kevin Adams would be willing to do. The question is,
Who else goes
hey,
to
Jets fans, call us and tell us what you think. Cole Perfetti for Dylan Cousins.
it? Man, I would I hope it happens just so we can watch the
Wow.
absolute insanity that would ensue.
The reaction from that would make the trade deadline.
Oh God, yeah.
I would and don't screw this up, Winnipeg and Buffalo, by making this trade a day or two ahead of the deadline. No, Jesus, no. Give me something on the deadline day that salvages it. Like when the Sharks went and acquired Thomas Hurdle at the last minute to save what otherwise would have been a dull 2024 trade deadline. Come on. That's what I'm talking about.
Right? Like I didn't take this entire week off for
Yeah,
nothing.
exactly.
I did it because I was forced to by work. But other than that, give me something to entertain me this week. That
Yes,
would be
geez.
amazing entertainment.
Oh, that would just, yeah, that would really, well, it would generate a lot of excitement, generate a lot of talk. That's for sure. That's for sure. That would be a real hockey trade right there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that fans want to see more of. Not this, we'll give you this guy for a first, or like a
Yeah, no.
true hockey trade.
Yeah. And that's what, and Blaine, that's what we've been seeing though. We have seen a lot of real hockey
Yeah.
trades though this season. Excuse me. I mean, Capo Caco for Will Borgen, hockey trade. Benefited both teams. Hockey
Yeah.
trade. Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor going to Vancouver for was it Danton Heinen and yeah, Desjardins, but you also had a couple of quality draft picks in there too. But you had players
Yeah.
for players movement. But the better one, I mean JT Miller, right? Going from
Yeah.
Vancouver, we had Philip Hedel and you had a prospect defenseman, a couple of picks in there. That qualifies, I think, as a hockey trade. The Rantanen deal, a three-way deal, but that was a hockey trade. That was the best hockey trade. It really was. So, yeah, I think that now that we're seeing, and a lot of teams, and I mentioned it earlier in the show, you're seeing a lot of teams now are willing to be more creative because they know the salary cap is significantly
That's
rising.
the thing.
If it was
Yeah.
still only going to be another flat cap marginal rise, you're not going to see as many teams willing to gamble. But now it's just like, oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, we're going to have cap space next year. Sure, let's do this. So I say, yeah, I'm really hopeful that we're going to see more of that. It's just right now, you know, it's the stuff like you were saying. I mean, for teams out in the West, I mean, it is as you say, murky. You look down, especially where down in the wild card spot. I mean, Vancouver and Calgary. Okay, which of you want that final wild card berth? And Vancouver, good God, talk about
Gong show.
dysfunction. Oh my Lord. And again, this is something I remember seeing Steve Dangle talk about this, I think, a couple weeks ago, and he was saying that, on paper, they're a good team. They're a very good team, but they're just not clicking.
No.
And Elias Pettersson, I have a theory. If do I have time to explain my
Oh
theory?
God,
Very
yeah.
brief. Yeah.
Giver. What is it?
Okay.
Tell me.
Well, he's poised. He's ready. But the thing that I find interesting is there's been a lot of different stuff about, well, he was hurt. Oh, there was he was clashing with JT Miller and all of this and blah, blah, blah. But none of that, I think, really fully explains it. And maybe I'm seeing something into this that's not there. But I go back to around a little earlier around this point last season, back around January, February. And in January, up until January of last season, Pedersen was one of the top 10 scorers in the league. I believe January of last year, he had 21 points in 15 games. He was just ripping it up.
Yeah.
And then the word gets out that he and the Canucks are not close in their contract negotiations. And this is just an extension. Now, he's a restricted free agent with arbitration rights that summer, right? So it's like, oh, well, that stuff happens. No biggie. You can carry this on, after the playoffs into the offseason. It's fine. And then word gets out that the Canucks are talking to the Hurricanes about Patterson.
Yeah.
Like Elliot Friedman broke that. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, wait, really? Really? Have talks reached that much of an impasse? You are honestly considering this? And then it was, well, we want to go back and talk to him one more time. Excuse me. And then within a week or two of that, he's resigned. And he hasn't played the same since. And I don't think, and maybe I'm wrong, I may be completely off. Again, this is just my theory. I don't think it's the pressure of that big contract. I really don't. I think he may be feeling disrespected by Canucks management. I think that this whole thing of, wait, really? You're going to trade me if I don't sign? Really? It's come to this?
Yeah.
And that almost seemed like it was a threat. We'll trade you if you don't sign. And I just think he's feeling a bit disrespected because this whole thing, the clashing with JT Miller, they were teammates for years, right? They were teammates for what, 5 seasons?
Yeah,
And
thereabouts, yeah.
yeah, and okay, they may not have been the best of buds or gotten along, but geez, they seem to get along to play well, right? you know, oh, well, it was the revolving door of coaches. Really? Well, Pedersen played well under every coach he had. He played well last season under Tocchet, and then all of a sudden the production drops. And this season he's playing like he's just missing something. And again, I might be completely out to lunch. We may find out down the road that my little theory is way off in left field. But that's the only thing I look at this that I can see. It's just I don't think it's a coincidence that his play dropped after that whole thing with the contract.
It's very likely. It could also be that he's feeling crowded by this sheer number of Elias Petterssons that are on the roster.
Pedersen, back to Pedersen, over to Pedersen. Well, that's Marcus, not Elias. Which Elias? Third base.
Exactly.
Oh
The
dear.
first time one of them scores and the other two assist on it,
Yeah.
I want that framed.
Yes, please, please frame that. Yeah. Pedersen, from Pedersen to Pedersen.
Because with them as well. I mean, I know that's going to be a bit of an issue with him. Like
Mm,
I don't know what it is with the chemistry on that team right now, but it's just not clicking. But they have Willander that's going to be available to them at the end of this season from Boston University.
mhm.
Again, recruiting is going to go up.
Yes,
Um,
indeed.
and they have a ton of cap space they can play with.
Yep. Yep.
So they got to make some kind of move because I would much rather they make that playoff spot than Calgary so that Montreal gets a better pick.
There it is. There
There it
it is.
is. See
There
how
it
I tie
is.
that shit in?
Exactly. Well played, sir. Well played.
Yeah.
We bring it all back to the Hab. Told you, folks, it's a Hab show. We always manage to bring it back to them. Well, Brock Besser could be that move
Could be.
because the contract negotiations, they're not close on that one. And now it's starting to look like they're going to start listening to offers for him. I would not be surprised that Brock Besser is on his way out of Vancouver by Friday. That seems a much better possibility than it was a couple of months ago. Apparently, he rejected earlier this season. He rejected a 5-year offer worth 8 mil a season. It's a decent raise. Apparently, the money wasn't the issue; it was the term. He wanted a longer
Yeah.
term deal. He wanted 7 to 8 years. They only wanted to give him 5. If that's as far as they want to go, well, and it almost seems in a way too like the Canucks are kind of like doing what the Rangers have been doing this year. It almost seems like they're kind of retooling on the fly here.
Hmm.
And it almost seems like if they have to write off this season so they can come back stronger next season, I think they may be willing to do that. But if you're going to get rid of Besser, well, you're going to have to be in the market to bring in somebody to replace that offense, you know?
It's a 40 goal
And
scorer.
exactly, exactly. I know that his production's down this season, but guess what? Everybody's production on the Canucks is down this season, with the
Sure.
exception of Quinn Hughes, and that's only because he's been hurt, you know? But no, even Hughes's production's been down too. So yeah, but there's just something wrong with the chemistry there, and I think maybe that's what they're trying to address. But the whole thing, though, I think also with Pedersen with Petey, it's that 11.6 mil a season,
That could
and
be weighing on him. It could be the
what you gonna do?
disrespect. It could be chemistry. Who knows,
Are
really,
you
to be
going to give him
honest?
another? Yeah, I mean, apparently they're going to give him another. They don't want to give up on him. Want to give him another try, and then you have the other school of thought that says, well, they'll let the season play out and then explore the trade market in the off season when, yeah, they might get it better offers for him. It's just, man, it's just so funny because this was a team a year ago that looked like finally there's
Turn the
that
corner.
breakout.
Yeah.
Finally, the stability's there in the front office. They finally got a coach that works. Now they're ready to move forward, and it's all falling apart. I mean, Miller's gone. Besser seems to be on his way out the door.
Yeah.
Pedersen's got an uncertain future all of a sudden. What next?
Exactly. And with Hughes, I mean, this kid just even though his it seems like his numbers are down, he's still
Oh,
dominating. It's
he
still
drives
60
the play.
points in 50 games and
Yeah.
I think he's on pace for his first 20 goal season. So,
You see
he's
the
doing his
difference.
part.
Yes, you're right, Blaine. You see the difference when he's on the ice, when he's out
Yeah.
there, when he's out, and that's not helping either. I mean, it's that lower body injury. It's probably the same thing that sidelined him before the Four Nations. And boy,
Yeah.
did Team USA miss him. Thank goodness. But sorry,
I'm
sorry,
heartbroken.
sorry to my American friends, but whew,
I'm
indeed.
very heartbroken.
Yes, yes, yes. We proud Canadian as in the Canadians, yeah. Um, very briefly, by the way, Canada really, really needed that.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
really, really
we
needed
did.
that. And it felt really good. We needed that little morale boost, and that really, really felt good.
Yeah, my father like I was watching the game in Mexico uh
Mm.
from that bar that was on they had that on TV, the bar in Mexico.
Okay. Oh,
I
you
was
were
right
down
behind
there.
that guy with the camera.
Oh, right on.
But after the game, my father called down. I was a little bit
Yeah.
inebriated from celebrating
A few pops. Yes.
a couple of Pepsis, but
Yes.
my dad remembered the 72 series and he likened it to that.
My dude, I was 9 years old in 72. I watched almost every one of those games. The games that came from Moscow, they were televised in the middle of the day, so
Yeah.
we got to watch them, right? The games that came on at night, my folks let me stay up to watch the first two periods, right? The ones in
Yeah.
Canada. That's how important that was. My parents, my mom is not a sports fan. She did not watch hockey. She watched when I came home from school for the third period of game 8. She had the game on. She was working in the kitchen, but had the game on, listening to it on TV, you know. But your dad's right. Like I had not felt like that since Canada Russia 72, since Canada Cup 87, right? Like
Yeah.
that's another thing that was comparable, was just it was that, which for a series we were going into that I honestly didn't give a crap about. I really didn't before
Yeah.
all the geopolitics came into it. I just looked at it as like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right, four nations, okay, it's an Olympic warm up. It's not even truly best on best because a lot of the best were excluded. I still have a bee in my bonnet about that, but regardless, and yet that that surprised me. How like it took me after that game 2 hours. Like I didn't even bother going on social media or anything like that because it took me 2 hours to calm down after that. Like the blood, I could hear my blood pumping in my ears in that
Yeah.
overtime. Like just heart pounding. And I realized, and it was after that game was over, I realized I haven't felt like this since game 872, since game 387, Canada Cup. I have not felt like that since then. Not even like even Canada winning the Olympic, in
Yeah.
2002 and 2010. Yeah, but this was back when the politics of the world was different. And these were, yes, rivals, but we were, it was still friendly rivals. You know what I mean? We respected each other. Key word, respect. Something that's been lacking from one side. Anyway,
Yes. Yeah.
so yeah, so to see that game and then watch that snipe off the pass from Marner of all people. And if you saw that clip, which I loved, the clip on the bench, John Cooper saying, somebody out there has got to get selfish and put one in the net, McDavid with Marner. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, chills, man, chills when you know what's coming, right?
Oh
After
yeah.
that, it was just brilliant. And can I say, Mitch Marner silenced a lot of his critics and a lot of his doubters that he doesn't elevate his game. I kind of liken this. This could be like his Mario Lemieux moment. Mario Lemieux in '87 when he
Yeah.
played in the Canada Cup. He said playing with guys like Gretzky and Messier back when they were in their prime and knew how to. These guys were proven winners. This was in the middle of the
Mhm.
Oilers dynasty. How playing with them, he said, taught him what it took to win. Maybe for Marner, that is kind of his Lemieux moment because he played very well. Scores the overtime winner against Sweden. He sets up the game tying and the game winning goals in that gold medal game. Played very well. So, maybe, just maybe. Oh, and by the way, Bennington, to me, that was comparable to Grant Fuhrer in '87. It was
Yeah.
like, yeah, he'd look a bit shaky but you know what? He would come through when you
Yeah.
needed him most,
He
and he
let in
did in that
6 goals, but
overtime.
he made that save to stop that seventh so they can win.
Yeah, made that last save
So
when you needed it the most. Yep.
you said you wouldn't get on a soapbox, and I just set you up with one right
You
before we
did.
ended the show.
You did.
So there you go. I got you going. It's nice. It's good to end on a big Canada win.
Yes.
I love it. So thank you for coming back on.
Always a pleasure,
Hopefully
Blain.
we can get you on again after the trade deadline so we can just shoot the breeze again. But
Yeah.
and with the listeners, I want to thank you guys again for following us and helping us along. And remember, if you're talking about it, so are we.